Sonoma, turn 11. Shane van Gisbergen is holding off the whole field by less than a car length, the tightest winning margin of his entire NASCAR career. And while every camera in America is pointed at his hands, the real story is happening down here. Because that's a bloke braking with his right foot, blipping the throttle with the edge of that same foot, and stabbing a clutch pedal that most of the field has basically forgotten exists. 8 road course wins, tied with Tony Stewart for second on the all-time list, 1 win behind Jeff Gordon, and he's done it in 15 starts. So here's the question that's tearing the Cup garage apart right now. Is heel and toe an unfair advantage the Yanks can't copy, or are they just too scared to unlearn 20 years of muscle memory? Stick around, because SVG himself has said something about this that nobody in the American media wants to repeat. Right, let's get the mechanics sorted first, because most channels get this dead wrong. Heel and toe is one foot doing 2 jobs. The ball of your right foot presses the brake, the heel, or realistically, the outside edge of your right foot rolls over and taps the throttle. Meanwhile, your left foot is working the clutch. Why bother? Physics, mate. When you downshift, the engine is spinning slower than the gearbox wants it to. Dump the clutch without matching those revs, and the engine acts like an anchor bolted to the rear axle. The back tires lock, chatter, and the car steps sideways right when you're trying to turn in. Blipping the throttle spins the engine up to meet the gears, so the clutch drops in smooth as silk, and the car stays planted. Did you know? This isn't some Kiwi voodoo. Every supercar on the Mount Panorama grid does it. The Gen 3 cars run an Albin's 6-speed sequential with a proper H-pattern style stick and a clutch you actually use. SVG grew up doing this at 300 clicks an hour down Conrad Straight. It's not a technique to him, it's breathing. Now here's the bit that matters. Ask SVG himself why he does it, and he doesn't talk about lap time. He talks about the diff. Well, in a supercar, you're running a locked differential and a heap of rear brake bias just to make the thing rotate. That combination wants to spin you into the fence at every corner. So the clutch becomes a rear brake dimmer switch. You feather it to control how much the rear locks, then let it out on turn-in, and the car pivots into the corner like it's on rails. That's the secret sauce. It was never about smooth gear changes. It was about using the drivetrain as a 4th steering input. Meanwhile, the Cup regulars, almost all of them left foot brake and shift to the X-Track 5-speed clutchless, just rev match and pluck the lever. It's not lazy, exactly. It's what they were taught. It's what works on an oval. Left foot on the brake means overlapping brake and throttle to keep the nose loaded, and on a 1.5 miles, that's gospel. But on a street course with cold tires and a bumpy braking zone, gospel becomes a handbrake. Now, here's where I've got to be fair dinkum with you, because I'm not here to feed you a fairy tale. Dale Earnhardt Jr. put this exact theory to SVG on the download, and Shane basically shot it down. His words, "I don't think it is a big advantage. People overthink it." His reasoning? The next-gen car has an open torque biasing diff. You can run far more front brake bias. You don't get the rear locking problem that made the clutch trick essential in a supercar. So the tool that made him great in Australia is, in his own words, largely redundant in a Cup car. He just keeps doing it because it's all he's ever known, and you can see the ripple effect. Joey Logano turned up to Watkins Glen, right foot braking, and bailed on it in practice. Austin Cindric has been chipping away at it for ages. He even ran a Supercars wild card in Adelaide, partly to get reps. Ross Chastain, SVG's own teammate, put it perfectly. "My feet are on the wrong pedals when I do it his way. I can do it for a corner or 3, then muscle memory takes over." Even Denny Hamlin was taught to right foot brake. That's how he won the Xfinity race in Mexico City 20 years ago, and he reckons no young driver coming up the ranks will ever volunteer to learn it now. So what if the footwork isn't the weapon at all? Listen to Connor Zilish, 19 years old, SVG's teammate, and genuinely the only bloke on the planet keeping him honest on road courses. He doesn't right foot brake. And he says this: You never see him slipping the tires out of turn 6 into 7. Everyone else is getting to wide open throttle, and he's not even getting there. He doesn't push the car beyond what it needs to be pushed. That's the real edge. Tire management learned over a decade of 1,000-kilometer enduros where you hand a car to your co-driver, and it had better still have rubber on it. Bathurst isn't a sprint. It's 2 drivers, 1 car, 1,000 Ks, and the bloke who abuses the tires in hour 2 loses in hour 5. The heel toe is the symptom. The patience is the disease. If you're tired of the mainstream mob reducing our drivers to a novelty pedal cam clip while ignoring the actual craft behind it, join the 97 Nation. Hit subscribe and keep the invasion alive. We decode this properly every single week, so who's next? Because that's the question that decides whether this is a one-man freak show or a genuine pipeline. Cam Waters, the bloke's a Bathurst winner and a Supercars race winner who's already had 2 cracks at the Truck Series with ThorSport. Martinsville in 2024 was a rough education, collected in someone else's mess, finished 30th, wall for a souvenir. But Lime Rock in 2025, different animal entirely, carved through the field for a top 5 on a track that rewards exactly the sort of car control Aussies grow up with. Waters is arguably the purest natural talent Supercars has produced this decade. Give him a full road course program and he'd be a headache for the entire Cup field. Brodie Kostecki, now this one hurts a bit. The 2023 Supercars champ made his Cup debut at the Indy Road Course with RCR, ran trucks and Xfinity, and looked every bit the part. But in 2026, he's home carrying the iconic number 17 for Dick Johnson Racing, fighting for a Supercars title instead of chasing a NASCAR seat. And that's the bit nobody's talking about. The pipeline isn't guaranteed. Kostecki proved you can be world-class and still not land the ride. American teams love the idea of an Aussie ring-in for 2 road courses a year, backing one full-time through a brutal oval learning curve. That's a much harder check to sign. So here's the what if. What if a Cup team actually committed, signed a Supercars champion, gave him 3 years, and let him fail on the ovals first? Because that's precisely what Trackhouse did with SVG. He didn't arrive fully formed. He got dropped into the O'Reilly Series, ate a season of humility, and came out the other side as the best road racer of his generation. Do that twice more, and the Aussie-Kiwi contingent doesn't just win road courses, it changes how Americans are coached. So can American drivers actually learn it? Physically, absolutely. It's a skill, not a superpower. Hamlin did it. Cindric's doing the work. Any 16-year-old in a Legends car could learn it tomorrow. But will they? Nah, not the current lot. When you've got 500 oval starts of muscle memory hardwired into your spinal cord, rewiring it for 2 weekends a year is a terrible trade. And Chastain's honesty about that is the most useful thing anyone said all season. The real verdict is harsher than that, though. They're chasing the wrong thing. They're studying his feet on the SMT data when they should be studying his throttle, trace the corners where he doesn't go flat, the tires he refuses to burn, which brings us to the man who might actually crack it. Kyle Larson has flat out said SVG is way better than us on road courses, and Larson doesn't hand out compliments like lollies. He also dropped the line that should terrify the entire garage. If SVG ever figures out the ovals, he's going to be dominant. Well, SVG sits 22nd in oval points this year. He's scrapping to lock himself into the chase off the back of a top 5 at North Wilkesboro. He's still learning, which means we haven't seen the final form yet. And here's the kicker. There's one specific oval on the back half of this schedule where the SVG data is already showing something nobody expected. That's the next video. Don't miss it. Cheers, Nation. See you next time.